We're all set, ready to go, John.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the town board meeting November 20th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. As always, we are streaming to both Facebook, YouTube, and to our own website. And at the beginning, at the top of each of our agendas, there's information to join Zoom if you'd like to participate remotely. So next up, I'd like to ask Deputy Supervisor Bollinger to release the pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're gonna go through the podium now. So first up, we have Craig Dubzak signed up.
Good evening. I thought a long time about how I would introduce this. And I want to use a disclaimer. I'm not here to deride the budget or your process in getting to it, but I want to make some observations about it. Last meeting, I made a comment about, how should I say, using some discretion in how you approach things. I have one question at the beginning. Does the fiscal year begin on January 1st? Okay. So this revised budget came out at 3:41 this afternoon.
So that was the first document that came out at that time was not correct. The updated budgets that are on there now are more reflective.
Well, you remember last time I wasn't able to find it. I did find it this time. And I'm not an accountant. I'm not a person who has a lot of experience with budgets, although I will say in a previous life when I was at Syracuse, I did chair the university budget committee for 2 years and had served on it for a number of years. Some things stood out about this one. And let me point them out to you because perhaps you've thought of this already. So the budget next year from this current year, we don't know what the actual is, but at least what was proposed, goes from roughly $13.5 million to $15.5 million. Right, an increase that's over 14%. So the average person gets that and says, what am I getting 14% more of? And as I look through the budget, there aren't a whole lot of things that stand out. Some of it obviously are the police budget and the cost of those. I'll give you something else that stood out to me. The difference between last year, this year, and next year is $2 million roughly. The increase in the real property tax goes from $9.133 million to $11.258 million, about $2.8 million. So more of the total increase in the revenue comes from property taxes. That's a 23% plus increase. So if you ask the average homeowner when he or she gets their property tax bill, what am I getting for 23% more? That stands out. Now, the budget went up 14%, but my costs went up that much more. And since all of the costs that went up, all of the revenue that went up came out of property taxes and then some. Yes, you could talk about grants. Sometimes they come in this year, they go out next year. That's piddling stuff. That's not the real issue. This is where the money comes from. This is where the great majority of money comes from. And it's an amount that just seems overwhelming for a 1-year increase. Now, you know that whomever runs against some of you next time is going to point to these numbers. You have to own this. And what you haven't done is given us, or at least that I've seen, a rationale for why you're doing it and why it has to be this much. The cost is going to be there regardless, but you should have some, whether it's called public relations or some kind of public explanation of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And again, the stuff on the margins isn't the difference because the average homeowner, the average property owner is going to look at this and say, what am I getting for this? So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We have one other person sign up. I don't know if I can really read the name. Anybody else who signed up from the podium?
Yeah, I did.
walking anymore. I saw a letter to the editor in the Eagle Bulletin this week that claimed that, and this is a quote, "An organized group spreading misleading information about this budget, and that amounts to a campaign to fund our police department." And I'd like to make a few comments about that. And first, I've only heard that phrase, that loaded phrase, from board members, not from anybody else. Second, the letter offers no set of facts that show that any of the information provided by taxpayers is misleading or that it intends to defund the police. Instead, the letter offers a summary of a few numbers purporting to show the taxes paid by a taxpayer with a $300,000 house. The letter impugns the character of your own constituents and demeans taxpayers simply for having a different view of the budget, but with mere conclusory allegations, not facts. My sense is that your job is to hear, listen to your constituents and consider their issues, not to insult the people who vote for you. Your job is not to second guess the motives of us taxpayers. And finally, as a practical matter, letters like that don't help in re-elections. Thank you.
Anyone else here for open podium? Do we have anyone online? Use the raise hand function. Okay. So first on the agenda, we have a public hearing. This is for a zone change at 7155 Taylor Road in East Syracuse, New York. This is an interesting one. This is a parcel that is on CD that is surrounded by R3 residential zoning. I don't know if we really had any success in figuring out why it was ever zoned that way. But what we've been able to do, thanks to our code enforcement officer working with the resident and also legal, we found a way. Their intent is to essentially put a new home on this property and a new septic system. So we were able to make it work that it's going to go to RA. And this is just so that we can remove the commercial zoning from a sea of residential zoning. While RA isn't perfect, it's better than commercial B. And so, you know, without anything else, I would just ask for a
Motion to waive the reading. A second.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Motion to open the public hearing. A second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Is anyone here for this public hearing?
There's a microphone on your thing, that's right.
My father-in-law is watching this from home, so hi, Matt. I don't know if
Your
you're okay
name,
with this.
please.
I'm Natalie Donnelly,
Thank you.
and I'm hoping to purchase this property and build on it.
Thank you.
Okay. So from here, then what happens? That's, I just wanna know, like,
So this is the public hearing. So this is a time for people to give us feedback. I'm assuming you would like us to pass this zone change.
very much.
So just so everybody knows, this is one person in favor of it. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna hear all the comments from anyone here tonight. We'll close the public hearing and then we'll consider the matter. As it stands, I haven't heard of any reason that we wouldn't be moving forward, but there's still other people that might wanna give us their comments.
Okay, okay. All right.
It'll be over tonight.
Anyone else?
I put in more friends.
Lynn Palmer, I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
Is that all I need to say?
Where do you live?
Taylor Road, 7132 Taylor Road.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So just for clarification, the purpose of the public hearing is like, we have to do this because we're passing a local law. So every time you pass a local law, you have to have a public hearing. We wouldn't really expect necessarily to have like a huge opposition to something like this. But sometimes when we do have zone changes, people will come out and say like that they're opposed to it for whatever reason. But it might seem like a little bit like procedural. It's procedural, even though it can kind of feels unnecessary. So I just wanted to make sure you understood.
Can I just further clarify that, say that the law, the zone change is a law, is the
Yeah.
local law, so that's why we have to do it.
Let's go back to the next question.
Yes, but just because people can't hear you from home.
So with the zoning, you said you're gonna do RA, is that different from the other residential zoning, like?
So it is different, but the issue is that the R3 zone that everyone else in that neighborhood is doesn't allow for septic.
Okay,
And so because there's a septic system, that's where RA made the most sense. But
okay,
still, it gives everybody the peace of mind that a gas station isn't gonna move them.
okay.
Because that's what CB is for.
Yeah, and as I recall, public sewer isn't
Doesn't
available.
matter.
Yeah.
It's not, so second is the way you have to go.
Nope.
Can I expect any other roadblocks with building with this type of zoning? Like,
No, RA is actually very flexible.
okay,
Well, I will say, though, we are, if this does go through, you would be changing to RA. The existing home would still be pre-existing non-conforming. So going forward with the new home, based on your proposed development, there may be variances for lot size and other setbacks that may be required for it.
okay, would I have to sign up for another meeting to see
You
if
would
you
go
guys would
through
allow
the
that?
zoning board of appeals for that, which, once this meeting concludes, I could walk you through what the
Sounds
next step possibly would be.
More procedural.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, just one last call, anyone else? Anyone online? Okay,
Motion to close.
I'll second.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any further discussion?
I think it's a logical conclusion for this problem.
Absolutely.
I entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. Enact local law 2024-7. The application of Erica and Natalie Donnelly for a change of zone from commercial business CB to restricted agricultural district RA for the property at 7155 Taylor Road in Syracuse. Tax map number 073.02-14.2.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. So the zone changes through. You can be in touch with the code enforcement officer for the next procedural piece of the puzzle, but thank you.
You're set for now.
Yeah. Okay, so the next item in the agenda, and Carrie, would you be able to screen share some of the documents off the agenda for me? If not, I can log in.
You guys don't have to stay if you don't want to. So you're welcome to stay.
wondering.
Yeah.
Lastly, my mother-in-law who's watching this from at home is on the papers, it's Eric Donnelly,
Not Erica.
not Erica. I don't know if that makes a big difference, but,
No problem.
okay.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
So it's just that the first change packet is the one that we want to take a look at, so it's at the bottom, because I couldn't get.
final budget, change packet that we have.
Yeah, Civic Plus was not nice enough to let me reorder those. So if you want to really just zoom in on those center two columns. I'm just gonna kind of walk everybody through. So we had a public hearing 2 weeks ago, a lot of feedback to, make sure that we're cutting costs wherever we can. So the overall impact of this first package of changes comes from a lot of the conversations we've had. I want to thank the chief of police for being very flexible and creative in how we can reduce some of the property tax increases here. So overall, what you'll see here is we are losing Medicare Part.
No, I gotta share the screen. People
Oh.
at home can't see it if I do it that way.
So, real property tax, the reduction in real property tax is a result of every other item in this document, so I'll stop there last. So we have, Medicare Part D reimbursement that we're no longer receiving, so that's a loss of revenue. We do have a grant for non-point source, stormwater. We also were awarded an ICERTA grant that we're using to purchase some electric vehicles, for both planning, development, and recreation. So we added that in as revenue, and then we added in the final amount of the ARPA money that's outstanding for the highway garage renovation, the building study, and for new microphones for this building, or for this board. And then you'll see, the revenue will reflect, the expenditures will reflect some of that new revenue. Most of the new revenue is immediately offset. So you have, all of the grants up here, and then you have the new building study here, personal services, one of our assessment, one of our members of the assessment office recently passed their assessor's test with 100%, and so there was a amount written into the budget for a raise for her, so we're happy to make that change. Then here we added in the cost of water delivery for jug water for the town hall, and then an increase in the Hive subscription. And underneath information tech, we were removing go to my PC as we don't need it anymore, and that's somewhat offset by increasing costs in our website hosting. Then you can see here, this is one of the electric vehicle purchases in there as an expenditure. We reduced the highway department's engineering budget by half to just kind of right size. We, didn't know when we wrote the 2024 budget, how much exactly they would need. So we've adjusted that. Then we have the vast majority of the remaining ARPA money, which is being set aside for the highway garage renovation and addition. It's a project that's been moving along pretty nicely, so we're excited to be able to put some funds towards that. Our town historian has retired, and at this point, we're not looking at bringing the new historian on. We do still have the Manlius Historical Society under our museum budget. That hasn't changed. And then, again, working with the chief of police, we were able to find some cuts to overtime pay. And then due to savings that they were able to put aside this year from another number of different places, we were able to offset the cost of the vehicles in next year's budget and actually purchase those this year at a lower rate. So we were able to pull a pretty significant chunk out of the police budget there. So that's the A fund. So the total impact on real property taxes is reducing it by $335,000. Then as we move to the B fund, it's a lot simpler. A small increase in real property taxes to offset a IMA with the village of Fayetteville that we'll be discussing later in the evening, as well as the remainder of that NYSERD grant for the electric vehicles. And then you'll see here we have the electric vehicles. And this is combined with an encumbered 2024 expense. Then you have the change to contractual for the fire IMA and cutting funding for a study group. And then we had budgeted to do an office renovation that we were able to get done this year. So we're removing that cost. And then for the zoning board and planning board members, chair and secretary, we gave a fairly small raise, but this is something that as we continue to see more and more development, more complicated development, these planning board members and the chairs and secretaries are doing more and more work each year. So we wanted to make sure that they were compensated fairly. And then out of the DA fund, so this is townwide highway, mostly snow removal. We looked at what we had budgeted for salt, and we're comfortable making a small adjustment there to reduce the total levy out of the DA fund by $20,000. SW3 is one of our storm or water districts. This is Sky Ridge. We were told by Aqua that they have a fund balance, so we've actually been able to not levy on that district. That's a special district though, so it only affects 29 people. And then this is the trash district. And so we've been waiting on Syracuse Haulers to get us updated figures for that. And so it is an increase. We are able to appropriate a little additional fund balance to offset that cost, but that is an increase of about $35,000, which I think works out to about $5 a household, given that we have 7,000. So, but again, we're rolling into year 4 of a 5-year contract on trash. And so, while this is a very small increase, we do expect in the next 2 years, when we go back to bid for trash, that there will be a pretty significant increase. So, this is good news, because it is getting more expensive to collect trash. So that is the first package of changes. We split it up for a reason that I'll get into in a second. But basically, we've been working since June to try, since we had the budget presentations from the department heads, trying to find ways to reduce taxes and also not create a massive hole in next year's budget or in the 2026 budget by taking money that's not going to exist next time and using it overzealously. And so, to the board, this is the package of changes that has been worked on. It's been in that budget change spreadsheet. This is just formalized to show the differences. So each of these is an amendment being made to the preliminary budget. So any questions from the board? Okay, so what I would be asking for is a motion to adopt the changes to the preliminary to final 2024 budget package 1 as presented. Is the motion I'd be looking for. If everyone's comfortable with that.
So that's just this page.
That's good. That's just this one PDF. Yeah.
So that, just to clarify, public, John, the changes we made, some total over $700,000 of additional cuts?
No, so this package has roughly, it's hard to say because there's some increases in other places. Really the number that's important is about $300,000 cut in the total tax rate.
So this is, we're calling this
Package one.
package one. Questions?
No, so John, we can't just adopt the final, we have to adopt.
Yep, so this is, so just for a little bit more clarification, the preliminary budget is then amended by these changes. And then the agenda currently includes a version of the final budget with just these changes. And then it has another one of the additional changes, just in case, because I know there wasn't 100% agreement, and I didn't want to back anyone into certain changes and make the whole back.
Can we, before we vote on the first changes, can we see the second changes?
Yeah, do you mind
Just so
following
that
that?
we kind of have them all together, even if they're separate motions.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't clear this was gonna be the process.
So I want to thank the
John,
town clerk, the comptroller, and John for putting together in this format so that the public and the board can easily digest these changes that we've been hacking away with for the past several weeks.
Which
So
one's
it's
that?
a much more
It's gonna be the second item.
sensible way of
This one
looking
here?
at
Yep.
the changes.
So this one is specifically looking at appropriations within our budget. When we filed our annual financial report last year, we were given some advice by the comptroller to take a look at how the budget was operating. And so what we did here was we took a look at the DA and the DB fund. Both have a very robust fund balances. And the guidance from the comptroller is to do something with that money, either give it back through a reduction in taxes or spend it on capital projects or put it into reserve funds. So what we did was we looked at the total overage of the DA and the DB fund and understanding that reductions to those are overall reductions to total property tax that's levied. Originally, when we put together the tentative budget, we removed appropriations from the D, the DB, and the B fund to quickly come into compliance with the comptroller. And then in conversations since then, what we've looked at is one of the things that we are looking at doing and we were being told to do is to use those appropriations to then lower property taxes for residents. So what we did, the plan was to take about half of the overage for each of those funds and then put away $100,000 into a reserve fund for equipment. I know we have a big purchase coming, I believe, in 2026 in the highway department. So that money put there now will help balance that budget a little bit in 2026. And then the remainder of those funds were appropriated to reduce the overall taxes that folks are paying. And then due to the A fund is, the fund balance is low on that one. And so we're kind of weaning the budget off of those appropriations. And so as part of this, the A fund property tax goes up, but the overall tax levy goes down. This gets us to the point where we're only using $600,000 in appropriations. And based on conversations we've had and hopefully with our new investment strategy moving forward this year, we will be able to look at removing appropriations completely from the A fund and then start using that interest to start building it back up for a rainy day. So overall, the impact here works out to, what is it, $330,000 in an overall reduction of property taxes. And so I separated this out because this isn't the conversations we've been having about what can be cut, but this is completely focused on what the current fund balances are in the town and leveraging that money as per the advice of the comptroller. So a total reduction of 450, and then it's, we're increasing.
We're increasing.
Yeah, so you can see the appropriations, it
Oh, okay.
matches, but we're adding those taxes
Yeah.
as opposed to subtracting those taxes.
Got it.
Any questions?
Does this make sense to everyone? You guys kind of look confused, so I just wanted to make sure.
I'd like to see this the final, like.
Yeah, so we've got the final budget off there as well. Final budget with package 1 and 2 changes.
It's nothing, it's not.
So I think I know the number everybody wants to see, and it's the A fund real property taxes, and so with the changes that were made, we realized a reduction, and then we went back and added in those appropriations in real property taxes. But as you go to the DA and the DB fund, you will see pretty significant drops in those property taxes. And that's available on the website, and then as soon as we have an opportunity, we're gonna update the budget presentation to reflect that. And then we'll get the final version of the budget in place of the preliminary budget, as soon as we vote on it tonight. Any questions?
Does that make sense to everybody then?
Hey, John. I got a quick question. In that part 1 changes, what was the 159 for the building study?
So that's so we've already done the study to renovate this building. I believe we're gonna present that. We're waiting on a final from the folks that did that. We'll have that presented at the December meeting, the first one. And then that is the remainder of the ARPA money that we're setting aside for putting the, essentially that 2018 feasibility study. We are waiting on a letter of intent from a property owner in town that we are looking at. It's a very different property than the one we previously looked at. And as soon as we have that letter of intent, we're gonna move forward and put out a bid to essentially put together the 2018 feasibility study again with a new piece of property. So that way, the goal is, sorry to segue into the new building conversation. The goal is that by April and May, we will be able to present the options that are on the table. So we'll be able to present the cost of renovating this building and the cost of building a new police department at this site versus the cost of building one new facility at the site. And our intent is to put, I believe it's the bond resolution that will actually go on the ballot. The whole new facility, that'll go on the ballot next November. So we have to get that sorted out by July. So the goal is to have some informational meetings in May and June, get it on the ballot, and then use the remainder of the year to continue to inform people. Because the idea is if the proposition is passed and we do build a new facility that includes the police department, court, and the town hall facility all in one spot, if that passes, we'll obviously take that route. And if it doesn't pass, then the options are really, we have the renovation study that explains what needs to go into this building to fit the needs of town hall right now. And then we will have to have another discussion about whether or not we build a new police department or continue with the current facility or find a facility to reuse at a lower cost. So we're just trying to.
Can't you get that on the ballot too? Like give them a choice? Because that'll put the whole police thing behind if people don't want the whole big package. Won't it? Put it behind another year?
Well, putting it on the ballot is delaying the whole project overall, but we didn't want to have to deal with a special election for such an important question. But that's something that we will continue to develop as to I don't know, because if both pass, I don't know what we would do.
It has happened that 2 conflicting resolutions have passed. That would happen in some other state, but
Yeah.
we would have to get legal advice on how
Yeah.
to phrase it, so you could have that and actually not have 2 conflicting things.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, just to clarify from the public what you're voting on, what we would be voting on as far as changes to a preliminary budget as it relates to the final budget.
Right, so the first spreadsheet, those individual items would be basically, each one of those would be an amendment to the preliminary.
Much like we do the budget transfers.
Yeah.
Where we do each one, this is essentially a package of
Right.
budget transfers for the not yet adopted budget.
Mr. Benson.
If you could you tell us where we would go to, or if we will be able to go to, a place to see how the board assess the implementation and the benefit of the solar fields that we've gone after in the last 4 or 5 years? I mean, as per the contracts, what's delivered, how do you assess the effectiveness and efficiency of these solar fields. Be interesting to see.
So really, the only, again, we have the one on the landfill, which we're receiving our rent payment for, and we've received a pilot payment for. So those are both in the budget that are reflected to show where that revenue is coming in. And then
And a 10% reduction in our electricity.
yes, and then as well as a cost benefit agreement that has come in from some of the solar projects. And then every other project is a pilot. So it's basically, rather than them paying a property tax, they pay whatever it is on that's in the pilot agreement, as were mostly negotiated with OSIDA and then recently not with OSIDA, so that we didn't have to pay OSIDA to do that. And those are all reflected in the budget. And I think, you know, what we could do is maybe on the budget page, maybe we'll just take a little look at revenue and maybe try to,
Yeah, I think we could do like
If you could characterize it in some way,
Yeah.
in your view, hey, this was great. Maybe we have some.
Every type of
I think
revenue
we could
associated
probably-
with solar.
we can work with Tom and we can work with our comptroller, because we have that information, so we can piece it together and to make it bite-sized rather than going through 100 pages. Yeah.
yes,
we can make it.
no doubt we will be able to.
And I think I saw one more hand up.
So, same motion as before, except this is just package two.
No, we can do one.
Oh, yeah, okay. So,
Okay, so motion to adopt the changes to the 2025 preliminary budget as presented as package one. Second.
okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
So now package two. So any questions about package two? So I will make a motion to adopt the changes to the 2025 preliminary budget as presented for package two.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. But like I said, the final budget is now on the agenda. It's the one that says, inclusive of package 1 and 2. And, you know, moving forward, some of the strategies that we have right now, with the police department, we are gonna be meeting, with our insurance agents to look at, ways to reduce some liability. We're also gonna be getting them in touch, with our grants, folks over at our engineering firm, Lavella, with the hope of finding, you know, grant funding to offset some of the equipment costs. And we are gonna be doing analysis of the police departments in the area as well as around the state to understand, you know, if we are having a more expensive police department per capita, so we can try to understand where other departments aren't spending that much money and try to learn something from that. And then the biggest thing to remember is that year to year with the budgets, the vast majority of the budget is tied up in personal services for both our police and highway workers. They have new contracts as of 2024 and 2025. So those tell us how we compensate folks. And you know, the biggest impact of those contracts is as the labor pool has shrunk. You know, it used to be when we were canvassing for new officers or canvassing for MEOs, which are machine equipment operators at the highway department, there was plenty of people to go to, there was options, it was competitive to hire. We are in a position now where for whatever reason, no one is interested, or not many people are interested in working as a police officer or as a highway worker. And it is getting to the point where municipalities are very frequently poaching folks from other places, and every time that happens, we lose, you know, the taxpayers' money that went into training that person, getting them up to speed, that money is largely wasted. And so the biggest goal for us, you know, when it comes to delivering these services, is trying to do a better job of explaining the types of training that the police do, the services that are provided, and then also just making sure that people are aware that we are trying to retain the people that we have. We're trying to attract transfers that don't have to be trained, that come with years of experience, that can become much more effective more quickly. And so that's overall a conversation that we can continue to have. The budget process doesn't stop here. We essentially are ready to start talking about the 2026 budget. And if, you know, if folks in the community want to look at service cuts, you know, by having fewer employees in either the highway department or the police department, that's a conversation we can have. We could, you know, there's different places that the service costs can be cut, as long as we communicate clearly to the residents what that impact is. That's a conversation that we're willing to have, so, with that is the 2025 budget.
Thanks, John.
Anything else?
May I have anything to say?
Yes, we do.
Yes, I apologize for any redundancy. I do have some comments about this process that the supervisor just kind of echoed some of, but I just need to say that this budget process began very early in the year with department head meetings, including very frank discussions on the realities and resource pressures that will be the foremost challenge to producing a sensible budget to meet the obligations of the town to secure the health, safety, and stability of the community. Every department head understood the challenge before them to prepare for real-world challenges with a spending plan that reflected options to meet the demand for the high-quality professional services that the residents and businesses in the town have come to expect, while also satisfying the completely appropriate expectation that any growth be sensible and responsible to bottom-line concerns. The majority of the growth in this budget, as the supervisor alluded to, is personnel-related, including the impacts of the two major collective bargaining agreements on the bottom line. Recruitment and retention costs are impactful, and any employer knows that the labor market has flipped over the last few years and that mandated costs related to personnel have also risen significantly in tandem. At this moment, as we adopt a budget for the next fiscal year, folks are understandably anxious because fresh in their mind, like mine as a taxpayer, is the very large payment that was just made to cover their school taxes. So we are not here today or any other day to control your school taxes, which is the majority share of where your property taxes do go. The smaller of our property tax payments go to this town budget, and of that lesser obligation, the largest piece is funding public safety, that is the police department. Again, this preparation began much earlier in the year with frank discussions of how various factors, both controllable and imposed, will make a challenging series of compromises necessary. As your representative here with deep ties to this community, which transcend politics or party, I know fully and deeply how valued the town's police department is to the residents and businesses that call Manlius home. This budget negotiation was not and will not be a referendum on policing. Public safety services are expensive, that's a fact, and it's not a new fact. So it may feel good to simply demand that we cut taxes, but that's not a serious response to the complexity of the situation, nor to the moral obligation of this board to manage the public's crucial assets. Controlling and reducing costs in every way possible at every opportunity remains our goal, with the full agreement and cooperation of each department. Reducing costs to residents while maintaining the high standards of health and safety that are expected by our residents and businesses is now and shall continue to remain the highest priority throughout the entire fiscal year.
Can I just, so, William, thank you, that was very eloquently put, and I agree with every single thing you said, so thank you for sharing that with everybody. When we were first elected in 2019, I had a lot of questions about policing in the community. And 2020 was the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I still did a couple BLM events. My daughters are biracial, so that was personal and sensitive to me. And we were also voting right at that same time to add police officers to the schools. And I remember forcing a public hearing over Zoom because we were all remote, and insisting that Supervisor Theobald hold a public hearing. And I reached out far and wide to everyone I knew in the community, everyone I knew in Syracuse, people I knew who had graduated from FM High School with me. I reached out to probably 500 people, posted all over social media and requested that people come to the public hearing to vote or to show that they were not supportive of adding cops to the schools. Every single person who came to that public hearing, every single one, was in favor of adding police officers to the school district. So I, at the time, was really struggling with having cops in schools. And so that was probably the hardest meeting for me that I've ever had that summer in 2020. But I voted in favor of it because the community that I represent had made it clear that that's what they wanted. I asked everybody to come and speak if they were against it, and people I personally invited to come speak came and spoke, and they spoke in favor of the CIRO program. And as I've now run for re-election once since then, at the doors and talking to people and at events, around the community now, more than 4 years later. People really love our Manlius Police Department. When we had the conversations about the new building and whether or not we should have a new town hall, I don't think I heard one person get up there and say, screw the police department, they deserve to be in an elementary school for the next 30 years. No one said that. I was like, well, I don't know about a new town hall, but I know we should build a new police department. I've had many conversations with the chief. I've had many conversations with my colleagues here on the board, and to continue to have the police department that our community has made clear that they want. This is what it costs. And so to echo John's sentiment, if we were to be told by the community that they don't want a police department anymore, that they want to consolidate with the sheriff's department and save several $1 million a year, then let us know that. And we'll represent you and we'll represent your interests, just like we have in the past and just like we are right now. That has been the sentiment that's been made abundantly clear to me. So I stand behind this budget. I own this budget. So thank you. I own this budget. And I think that a well-funded police department is incredibly important. And the reason why I think that is incredibly important is because that's what we've heard from the residents of this community. So I stand by that budget. And I'm proud to support our police department, and I'm proud to fund our police department as well as it needs to be funded, as long as the community says that that's what they want. So happy to support it, and I'd be happy to make a motion too, if you'd like.
So I'm gonna say something.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I don't have a prepared statement, other than, having thought long and hard about the budget, and this being my first budget process, at a town level on this side of the table, has been really eye-opening. And I think what I'd like to say is, I mean, many people, it's not only been said tonight, is if you're increasing by 14 or 23%, what more are we getting? And sometimes, and as is the case at this time in the world today, it's what are we maintaining? So the cost of maintaining where we are at is that much more, right? And I don't like to put this all on the back of our police department, because it's not the only service that the town provides or is charged with providing. And we have to provide also fire suppression services, emergency medical and rescue services, right? And there's 4 departments in this town that present the town with a budget. And we can have discussions with them and we can go through it, but they give us a great presentation on why it costs what it costs them to bill us, to provide a high level of emergency services, other, aside from law enforcement, right? So in this town, you're getting, we're at like 75% staffing across the town for an ambulance to leave, a staff ambulance to leave quarters and respond to your emergency immediately, for a full engine company to get on the road from one of the 4 departments and come to your house if there's a fire report. And then, our highway department is a big, a good highway department. It's fantastic. They provide great services. I don't have a lot of complaints with our roads and our highway system that's maintained by the town. And when I do, before I was a town councilor, our town supervisor in that department treats everybody like there's somebody special as a resident of the town. And if you have a concern, we were walking last summer and they came right out and, there was a hole in the road, and they fixed it. There was a hole in the road in my neighborhood. Somebody was jogging, almost fell in it. And, they were right out there, they mitigated it. And then within days, it was being fixed. And, it's not, you don't have to be elected to be somebody in this town when those services are called upon for you, right? They provide a high level to everybody, and that has a cost, but those costs have significantly increased. And in my professional life, aside from town government, I'm on the other side of the table, having to review town budgets and expenditures and getting financial reports on the health and status of that government when I'm negotiating with them. And I can tell you that we are not unlike every other town and village and county and other level of government facing these types of increases, not only in labor, but in the cost of pencils and pens and tables and, being a transparent, trying to be a transparent government and open to people and their interaction and providing, you know, equipment that can bring us into your home. So you don't have to come and sit here in a room that doesn't fit enough people for a town that has 34,000 people. You know, so it was a lot of work. As a first-time budget, it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of research on your own to get these, to know these things. And I too, you know, I'm gonna own the budget and I'm gonna stand by it because as a resident of this town and a user of its services, I want to at least maintain where we are with the services that we provide at the level that we provide. And that's basically all I want to say about it.
I have seen a lot of people say like, oh, there's no new big special projects, and that, I think that's one of your points, right, Mike, like it is.
We're trying to maintain the
Yeah.
services at the level that we currently provide them, and there's a cost to do so. The cost didn't stay the same. If it did, we wouldn't have to, we all pay taxes to the town as well. We don't want to have to incur that ourselves, but we have to in order to provide the services at the level that we provide them currently.
You know, when it comes to the choice between cutting taxes left and right, or raising taxes and keeping services, like in the first option, you have to cut services, and people are gonna be real mad when their roads aren't plowed and their holes aren't being paved and.
Their mailbox, the actual doesn't get put back.
Yeah, like that stuff, it just all costs money, and I feel like there's been a lot of vitriol out in the community attacking us for being fiscally irresponsible, for not listening, for not caring. That's not true. We listen, we care. I'll speak for myself. I care. I care deeply. I emailed with numerous residents back and forth, have offered to meet for coffee with several people to engage, and to explain and to listen and to understand. And if everyone wants us to cut taxes like crazy and accept that services will then be cut, then just you let us know and we'll do that next year for you.
How do we let you
Chairs are
know?
great.
They're comfy, right?
They're nice.
They're much better.
How do we let you know?
You can email me.
Email us,
Mhm.
town board.
Townboard@townofmanlius.org.
You can call town hall and ask to speak with one of us, and whomever you ask to speak with. Call Duffy, call John's office and say, I want to talk to Caitlin, and I'll call you. I've had that people do that many times over the years about different stuff. Sorry, Ingrid, I know I keep.
My turn, Katie.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. So a brief comment just from a human resources perspective, which is what I bring to the table. I know that our town manager works hard to work with a broker and look at insurance options and how people are covered. All of us know that those rates are increasing also. We all experience that personally, both on the retirement side and the insurance side. And just to add a comment, John, to the issue of people not being available to work, it's a demographic issue. So boomers, many have retired. There are less people in Gen Y and Gen Z and X, and there are less people available to recruit. Turnover is really expensive, and so we do want to keep people. So that's my 2 cents with that lens.
I look for a motion to approve.
So, the second one here. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2025 preliminary budget.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, and thank you for being here and taking part in the conversation. We appreciate it.
If anyone would like to sit down and have coffee with me, email me and we'll get it on the calendar. Happy to talk to anyone.
So, Mr. Poitras, if you'd like to give us an update on 6602 Fremont Road.
Good evening. So I'm sure everybody's aware that the structure at 6602 Fremont has been demolished. We did do a phase one was completed, and after that, we worked with the contractors and contacted the DEC. Should have received a spill report from the DEC this afternoon that said no further action was required from them upon their investigation by a spill response officer. So the next action will be to go and obtain quotes for the completion of the demolition, because in the quote that we had approved, the completion, the finalization of the demo, the grading, the seating was not in there due to the unknown factor of such. So does anybody have any questions?
So we'll get bids for the grading team.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That was that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for managing that.
Yeah.
Thank Joe Fortesky for walking us,
Joe for
walking me
getting
through all that, all the legal portions of it, so
It was a project.
we've done, yes.
Now we know how to do it for, if there's any issue again, we have a better process in place now.
Yeah, take your time, you kind of had a premonition on this, so like as we go through, there might be some toxicity.
Yes.
And this is something to deal with, so you were well prepared for this.
Who paid for that? Does the town pay for it? or-
So that goes on the property owner's tax roll, and so, yeah, all the costs are passed on to the owner, and the county does make the town whole, and then they worry about collecting the taxes. If they're not,
So ultimately, it could be auctioned or something like that. If it's not.
I think
The county would do that.
yeah, the county would be involved in that.
So we levy the taxes on the tax bill, those taxes don't get paid, then we get made whole, via the county, then the county basically puts them up for tax auction, and then, they're sold at the tax auction, but the county's made whole via the tax auction.
So, you wanna roll right into the next item?
I was gonna
on the
say, I
agenda?
was gonna stand here in case anybody has any questions regarding the IMA.
So I will say, we've had some conversations, we're gonna, there's a couple of things that we wanna modify with this. One is the effective date, they've got it in there as October 24th. So we're gonna, go back to them and just let them know we want, January 1st of next year. And then I know we're gonna be asking for a particular certificate of insurance, just to make sure that we're, we have proof of their coverage. Are there any other questions? So this was funded, the full IMA is funded in the 2025 budget. Any questions on this, other than just kind of these little?
So are we gonna pass it like pending or something, so just someone can look at?
I mean,
We're tabling it.
we can table it, it's, the budget's done, they know it's coming, we'll just get back to them and,
Okay.
if next time we still have changes, we'll probably do that.
Tom, could you just remind me, like I know what we're talking about, can you remind me the details and the benefits?
The Fayetteville Fire Department would provide fire safety inspections for the commercial property, any property required by New York State to have a fire safety inspection within their fire district. They, within the Fayetteville Fire Department, have the qualified, call them operators, that have either a building safety inspection or a code enforcement officer certification. So what that does is alleviates from the town the requirement and puts that into the hands of the Fayetteville Fire Department, the men and women who would be going into these buildings when there is an issue, getting them on there, reporting back to us if there is issues that we would then take and put to ordered remedy or summons to.
And so we'll continue to provide this service to all the other residents outside of the Fayetteville Fire District.
At this time, yes. What I've had conversations with the chiefs where if their fire departments were to go operational with someone who had the qualifications, giving everybody the opportunity to go through this. Again, this is myself looking forward for the town that we're able to ensure that the required fire safety inspections per New York State are completed in the timely manner. And then with that, it puts the staff that's here in the office doing the work that is required for us for building safety, taking care of complaints, speaking with residents, and helping them move forward, zoning compliance, and other aspects within the planning and development department.
Yeah, it sounds like a creative solution to address all of the staffing requirements and the time that you guys already have that spread so thin with all the things on your plate.
Again, with this being only a one-year contract, it's something that we can continue to move forward with. We are transitioning from having, I say transitioning, Dave Corbett, the current fire marshal, within 5 years, will be transitioning out, but with the level of knowledge and experience that he has, making it so that the fire safety program that we have for the inspections is continued on smoothly.
Thank you.
So will
they just do these inspections on their own, or will you have to notify them when to do?
They will be, so January 1, we've already kind of had a kickoff, as Michael Veldon, in regards to how they would be doing. They're already operating within the village of Fayetteville doing the fire inspection. So typically now notifications are given to, I'm assuming how they're gonna contact the property owners is what you're asking, or how they're gonna do the inspections?
How will they know when a inspection needs to happen within the town?
We have every inspection scheduled by the month.
Okay, so
throughout the
you'll
whole
give
year.
them that information,
Yes.
so, okay, so
Yeah,
it's,
there's
we'll
a-
be telling them to go do it. and-
We have designated occupancy scheduled, so anything that is required annually is done within the first 6 months to ensure compliance. Then after that, we have a rotating schedule, and then there are certain occupancies that we'll check within the winter time where we know they've had obstructions with either snow or, fallen ice or things of that nature where emergency rescue or exits would be blocked. So we have a couple of those where we do a little extra due diligence for assemblies that we make sure are taken care of.
So we'll table this essentially for some modifications to consider at the December 4th meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up in front of us is a recommendation for declaring essential vehicles auction. We've got a 2016 blue Ford Explorer in fair condition at almost 70,000 miles, and a 2011 Ford F-550 with plow, which was previously inherited from the highway department in poor condition at about 76,000 miles. And the intent is to use the recouped funds to go into the vehicle repair line to outfit the F-150 Lightning that was purchased earlier this year with some extra equipment.
With that, Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the town of Manlius Police Department to declare former patrol vehicle and plow truck as surplus vehicles to be auctioned by the county auction through Gov Deals.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do you want to talk to us for a few minutes about the Davis Homer contract?
Anyone heard the beeping in the hall?
So the doors were shut.
So the fire monitoring and burglar monitoring systems at Town Hall started out with Time Warner, progressed to Spectrum, and then Spectrum sold those services to Brinks. So Brinks does not have any service technicians licensed in New York State to perform the fire monitoring inspections on our panels. So they will continue to do the burglar system because that's operating fine, but we do need a new company to do this. Davis Ulmer does the inspections at the highway department because they have a sprinkler system and fire monitoring. So we met with the representative a couple weeks ago. The documents that are in the agenda speak to that. We would like to move forward and get that inspection done ASAP for 2024 because it has not been done yet. And then move forward with updating our system and getting the appropriate equipment. What's happening when you hear the beeping is it's not receiving a signal, so it's constantly going out of service, which is potentially a dangerous situation. So we would hope that you would approve the agreements with Davis Ulmer for the rest of this year. And then I think we talked about going on a calendar schedule.
Yeah, so this is replacing a service that we need replaced, and it's fairly nominal fee also considered to make sure we know if the town hall breaks down. So if there's unless there's any questions, I'd entertain it.
I'll make a motion, authorize supervisor to sign the contract with Davis Ulmer, fire protection for inspection services at Town Hall for a period of 3 years in the amount of $1,560 per year.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, and for taking all that out.
So.
And
And
whoever else. Make sure we don't burn the building.
So, as you may recall, we're doing a water system retrofit at the Sky Ridge Water District. So I'd like to just simply authorize the next step in that process, which is to put out a bid for the actual water tower tank and the pump house. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize Miller Engineers to prepare bid documents for the Skyridge Water District infrastructure improvements.
I'm gonna second that, but just want to say, you know, Ingrid and I got to visit that location briefly yesterday. This is very much needed for other reasons, but to see the condition of that, you know, this is a great, thing to do here. So I second that part of it.
Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Just as a reminder, this is a private water, or not private, a water district, so that it only applies to certain residents. And the majority of the funding, if not all of the funding, is coming from a grant that SM and Manlius got, I want to say, 3 years ago.
No, it was,
Oh, so 5 or 6 years ago. So it's, you know, we tried to do a much larger project, but, you know, we're very happy that we've been able to make something work that's gonna keep those residents having nice, clean water and a good pressure.
They've done a great job advocating for their neighborhood as well.
Okay, so next up,
so it is a private.
so here's the thing, so,
Thank you guys for coming. Have a
Thank you.
the intent of the board, this time around was to increase the size of the bar to 5 members. Just to, you know, with, you know, sharing and making, and also to making sure there's more people at the table who are making those decisions. So as of right now, we really only have 1 person who we're ready to appoint, and we only received 1 other person, and that doesn't really work. We have to have 3 or 5 members. So basically, what we have budgeted for it, moving forward, we're still gonna have to be looking for another member of the bar. But so in the short term, without having 2 other members to appoint, we'll be making a motion to appoint Fred Lutson for a 3-year term ending in October 2027.
So there's 3 years left at the start.
No, so it's because the bar only has 3 members, they're 3-year terms.
So that was my.
Yep, so then, and he's currently the chair, they decide who the chair is, so I understand he's gonna pick Fred again. And then at some point, we will be appointing additional members and making the terms all make sense as that.
So I heard you correctly, the motion is for, he's gonna be appointed for a 3-year term.
Yep.
October?
It ends in October.
Oh.
All right, well, make that motion to appoint Fred Lutson to the VIR for a 3-year term,
Ending in October 20.
ending in October of 2020.
5, 6, 7.
So it ends in 7.
October 2027.
Just shy of 3.
Are we sure that that's the right year?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I mean, you want to get it right, right?
So, we have a number of applications in for planning board and zoning board. We just wanted to let everyone know we're gonna be reaching out for, interviews, to get that set up, and we'll be looking to do those appointments in one of the December meetings. So the items 12 and 13 are tabled for now. And then, we have a new habit of ours, going through all the budget transfers.
Can I do all these and I'll read them really fast?
Sure, go for it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget transfer in the amount of $15,690 from A005.3120.100 police personnel service to A005 5.3120.101 police overtime pay.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget transfer in the amount of $59,966 from A005.3120.100 police personnel service to A005.3120.104 police training days.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget transfer in the amount of $125,985 from A00531. I was crossing 53120.100 police personnel services to A0053120.200 police equipment.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget transfer in the amount of $226.85 from CM356791401 earth-based expenses to CM356790400 watershed stewards contractual.
Second, and thank you.
You're welcome. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget transfer in the amount of $894.48 from A0051460000 records management contractual to A0051460200 records management equipment.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget transfer in the amount of $20,000 from A0051010400 town board contractual to A0051620400 building contractual.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so I'm just gonna very quickly kind of review what we've just done. So we moved money from police personal service to overtime and police personal service, to police training days. That's likely largely in part to us not having that last position filled and needing to move that money over to cover other costs. The transfer from police personal services to police equipment is some of the savings that they were able to realize this year. That is going towards the new vehicles that we're purchasing in 2024. Watershed sewer, I think that was for the banner. And then based on needing different scanners, we transfer some money for records management. And then the town board contractual to building contractual, that was repurposing of money set aside to ARPA for a tourism study for the renovation and expansion of the planning development department. Not expansion, but renovation. Wish we could do expansion. For $12,000. Yeah, okay, so next up, we just have the minutes, abstract and adjournment.
Supervisor report.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
One more.
yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve the supervisor report for October 2024. I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 6th, 2024 as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve abstract number 22 in the amount of $333,993.57.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Is there any other business? Any announcement?
Announcements, yes. The Manlius Watershed Stewards on December 17th will be meeting at the Seneca Street Brew Pub for a party, festival, fundraising, educational event. All are welcome. There will be a little bit of a sort of showcase about what we've been up to over the last year, opportunities to contribute to our all volunteer effort, and just a general good time in one of our favorite local locations. So that's Tuesday, December 17th at the usual meeting time, which is 6:30 p.m., but at a different location, Seneca Street Brew Pub, Seneca Street, Manlius.
Any local people performing, any musical renditions?
But there will be education.
See?
You gotta sell us on the music
And
part.
games and press.
Okay, games is fine.
No, it's in all seriousness, we have a year's worth of, experiences that this committee, this little but mighty committee has managed to pull off over the last year with some photos, and, it's pretty cool. So please come join us.
Is there like a Facebook event or like any candid marketing material you have?
There will be.
Zero.
If you can get that over to me with a little paragraph about what the Watershed Steward is and what you're working on, I'll send that out, because Sustainable Manlius
Yeah,
has,
you got a big list.
we've got several hundred people on our list, so I can circulate that.
Awesome. And do you mind if I keep going?
Yeah.
December 17th, a Tuesday. Who's busy on a Tuesday? Come on. So the last thing is the deer management committee did finally meet on yesterday. What year is this? So, and the village of Fayetteville will be taking it before their board of trustees on Monday night, but the verbal is that yes, they want to continue with the program. We have already submitted our DEC permit application. And so it's a little bit of a late start to the program this year, but it will still be successful, I believe. We put out the resident community survey about not even a week ago, I think, or maybe just about a week ago. Yeah, and within 24 hours, there were 40 responses, which is for a municipal survey, that's already exceeding expectations. But we'll leave it up for another 30 days at least. There's plenty of time. And again, the program itself is getting a late start at this time. I don't know why, but we're happy that it's going to continue. So my usual update at this time is going to be delayed.
Anything else?
I saw a
We
lot of
haven't had
deer,
experience with the deer aren't doing anything different anyway.
That's right, and oh, the most important part, the survey is open, so please, residents, public, anybody with any kind of interest in weighing in on the deer management plan, it's on our town website, and it went out on the socials as well.
Yeah, it's on the main page of the website, so it's under announcements.
Same questions, and, you know, so that year to year comparative data on all the anecdotes that come from the public, so that, the DEC loves that, so.
And then in terms of the deer vehicle accidents, you guys keep track of that.
I haven't asked for it yet.
It's on its radar.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Right, I do.
Second speed.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yes, on
Aye.
it.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries.